What's going on, guys? We are out in another cemetery just north of Tulsa, Oklahoma today. We're out with Atlas Reservation like normal. We are doing a class out here in this cemetery, Hillside Cemetery, also known as Hillside Mission Cemetery. They've done a really terrific job maintaining this cemetery. The particular area that we're in had white settlers as well as a number of different tribes of Native Americans that lived in this area. This is also part of the era when the US government forced the Native Americans onto reservations, and so that's how you get some of the dividing up of this different areas here in Oklahoma. So you have a lot of individuals that are here today whose ancestors are buried here that were a part of that movement. A lot of sad history with these individuals and with these families, but really a beautiful resting place, and that's what we're here to focus on today. We're gonna get out and do some work here in the cemetery, teaching the individuals on how to reset, how to clean graves, how to reset some of these monuments.
It's a big granite monument, but it's sitting on a limestone base. And it's hard for me to tell limestone or sandstone, but it's definitely a sedimentary rock. And so this is a good example. We can see all these cracks running through it. Those are bedding planes. When this was formed, it's layer upon layer upon layer getting compressed together. And so that fortunately, when they made this base, they bedded it properly. These are the geological bedding planes, so that all the weight of this is keeping it compressed together. Sometimes they turn it sideways and then it peels apart. And the dating, I'm sure quite accurate. From the size of this monument, it's a foot thick. It's very robust, and generally in modern times, they're 6 or 8 inches thick. But like I said, they went from these little thin marble stones and they started to get wider. And then when they transitioned into granite, they started to make them really beefy and thick and strong in many situations. And there's another good example right there with a marble tablet and the smaller upper base that has the epitaph on it. Also, you can see the line of a previous repair work on it. And you can see the lower base kind of chipping away on the left edge from this side. Say this is an old installation, but then you're digging a grave right here behind it, and if you dig right up against it and there's no foundation, this whole monument can fall in the grave. And I've seen it happen many times. When a cemetery becomes inactive, like in the older sections, that means they're not digging anymore, they're not burying anyone anymore, then there's less intrusions of the ground, so then you don't have those same kind of risks occurring. But in active cemeteries, monuments will fall in the ground, right into open graves, and it could be dangerous. People have gotten killed like that. Here's a different color granite, also a granite, different type of carving, but this upper area is what's called etched. So what they would do is polish the whole surface, and then they would remove polish in some areas, and that created this etching effect. And then also it's a different style lettering, because they polish the whole face, and then they would remove some of it, and that way you're getting the lettering remaining by a removal process. It's not really raised letters because it's still flat with the surface. Here we have a family plot. The colonial era, it was generally graveyards, burying grounds, burial places, and the names were different too. They generally called them tombstones or gravestones. They tended to be for one person, smaller stones like tablet stones, and it wasn't really family plots. And the planned cemetery movement kind of started around 1800, but especially with the garden cemetery movement like Mount Auburn, 1831. And that allowed family plots with bigger stones. They also put a walkway and kind of an entrance way. And this is a really cool, very impressive, large monument. Raised letters standing way proud of the surface. Those are not really done anymore in modern times. But I always loved this style monument that incorporates the natural rock. It has the aesthetic of the man-made monument growing out of the rock. That's what the design elements are here, the way it's all very rough and unfinished, like rock pitch, very kind of crude surfaces, but then it's all finished as you get to the side. And so it's kind of like that it's unveiling itself.
This is a monument that was in memory of the teachers and students, and the mission was established in 1882. Just for reference, the Hillside Mission was a school that was established by the Friends Society, and it was over there.
This is really the community cemetery for the folks that lived in that area.
Correct.
Hillside Mission, established by Reverend John Murdoch under the auspices of the Friends Society of 1882. And this was erected in 1995 by the Oklahoma State Historical Society.
Yeah, the Friends Society, or the Quakers, they established a lot of these missions around Oklahoma. And they did serve white members of the community, also Osage and Cherokee.
And you said that your family is also buried here, so you have a great-great-grandmother, or is there another great that I'm missing?
Even more.
Further back?
Biggest issue leading to the monuments toppling is leaning first.
Who's
So
the
this
person
is
here?
Adeline Mosier, and she's my great-great-great-grandmother, and she was Osage. At one point, as the Osages were being removed to smaller and smaller territory, they were in Kansas, and then they were moved down here to Osage County, and they developed allottees, so each individual tribal member got a section of land.
Are you going to be buried here in the cemetery as well?
Yes, I will. I
Okay.
think I have a
Got a
plot
spot
that's
picked out?
up on the top of the hill.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
My great-grandmother and grandfather, Maddie and John Stevens, are buried here. And
This is on your maternal line?
Yes. Actually, both these are my maternal line. Both my mother's grandfathers. One was Bradshaw, one was Stevens.
The most important thing if you're doing this kind of work is once you tip it up, if this bar comes out somehow, especially suddenly, this is going to come back. From a safety standpoint, to have a hand here would be a good thing. We can pull the bar and then just do a final compaction with the shovels to get any loose spots, especially there's going to be a loose spot right in the center where the bar was sitting.
Like with a lot of cemeteries, there's some cemetery lore here at this particular cemetery. There's a grave that's known as the witch's grave. I'm not going to point her particular grave out. There's no reason to go see that. But the legend that goes along with this is that there's a couple that lived here in the area, and when he passed away, she came out into the cemetery, and legend has it that she dug him up multiple times and then tried to cast different spells and things like that on him to try and bring him back to life. Part of the legend was that his body and his casket was then entombed in concrete. That's right back here. You can see essentially the tomb of concrete that's behind us. The reason that we know this is local lore and not actually truth is that she died first. Probably somebody in the town saw, oh, there's somebody that's encased in this concrete. Why did that happen? But no, she actually died 5 years before him, so she wasn't even alive when he passed away.
So we always use 4 spacers. Again, usually I use just little chips. So modern monument companies usually use plastic spacers. They call them setting cushions. But this lead is the traditional joining material for granite. These are like 1/2-inch blocks, so I can kind of stretch it so it just goes right in here. You can start with just like a golf ball piece, roll it out like a cigar, and then stretch it. Back of the fingers, or use a tool, because if this slips out, it'll chop your finger off with this much weight. So I'm gonna pull this out quickly. One, two, three, down. Like a smaller stone, we float it around to get it to seat itself. This, we don't mess around. If we want to mess around with this, we use tools and a bar. Last thing I would do is, you could throw some grass seed down, rake it a little better. Eventually it'll start to lean again slowly, but then you could come back with the bar someday and re-level it. But with all the work we did, all the gravel in between, this will last a long, long time.